For people who never grew up in the streets or knew people involved with them, they often demonize everyone involved in that lifestyle. Those menaces to society who fuck shit up for everyone, lock them all up. Now for some street dudes, it's absolutely true. Just some evil characters out there who love to cause harm. And believe me, you'll see some of those in this video. But for many, they're simply raised in an environment where they have no choice but to get with the business. That or just be a victim. Something as silly as being raised on a particular block can make you a target and force you to live in survival mode. Well, in this video, you'll see the most unfortunate case of this phenomenon, where an entire hood was hunted down simply for their appearance. This story is mind-blowing and truly tragic, stories that you'd never think to hear in America's wealthiest and most progressive city. This story is absolutely wicked, but before we get into it, let me run the intro. The story begins in San Francisco's Mission District, one of the trendiest neighborhoods in the country.
Oh my god, Sarah, have you tried the new Pilates place on Mission Street? Oh, and if you tried the matcha place, it's literally fantastic.
You get the point. With tech CEOs like Mark Zuckerberg living there, you can kinda get the vibe. Techies and trust fund kids who wanna live in a quote-unquote cultured neighborhood. To new residents, it's just a cool neighborhood with good food, nightlife, music, art, and a lot of homeless people too. But let me tell you that the Mission was not always this type of area, so let's do a little bit of history. The Mission District was originally an Irish and German neighborhood from the 1800s up until about 1945. This is when the suburbs were built all around the country and white residents in urban areas decided to move out to these, well, suburban areas. Marin, San Mateo, San Leandro, you get the picture. As they all fled the Mission, in came a bunch of Mexican immigrants who proudly called this beautiful neighborhood home. By 1960, the Mission was over 55% Mexican and it had a whole new identity. It truly became the cultural center for all things Latino in the Bay, from car shows, music, food, and all. It was a great, vibrant place to be and to raise a family. But then came the 1970s. In the early 1970s, the Norteños prison gang began spreading to cities all over Northern California. When the members were released from prison and came back to their home neighborhoods, they brought their affiliations with them. This entailed starting factions in their neighborhoods and doing this by recruiting young members to join up to Norteños. This occurred all over the Central Valley and the Bay Area, but nobody got hit harder than the Mission District. Local teenagers were being recruited left and right, creating a giant gang. This entailed hustling, robbing, extorting, intimidating, and most importantly, holding the block down. This entailed members standing outside all night and day to ensure that this is Norte territory. They decided to make the corner of 24th and Mission their main headquarters, but they had blocks spread throughout the Mission. And sadly, by the 1980s, every block in the Mission was filled with Norte gang members. While this definitely made the Mission uncomfortable to live in and walk through, at least it wasn't that violent. Now, of course, having all these gang members, certain incidents did happen, but there was no other people but the Norteños, meaning that these fools had nobody to beef with. In fact, at the start, they were even known to get along with everyone, especially the Black Hoods. Unlike down in LA where there was tensions between black and brown, in the city it was all familia. The Mission Nortes were simply known for chilling on the block and getting money. But unfortunately, this would quickly have to change. In the mid-1980s, their arch rivals from Southern California would begin making their way up north. Slowly but surely, Sureños started popping up in the Mission, eventually creating their own territories on 16th and 19th and Mission. This was no easy task though, as they were severely outnumbered by the Nortes, who hated them deeply. And just like that, a major turf war broke out between the Norteños and the Sureños in the Mission. Body after body after body, the neighborhood turned into an absolute bloodbath. Every single night. The formerly vibrant neighborhood was now vibrant with police lights and sirens.
In the city's Mission District, where gang violence is an entrenched way of life.
We get angry, we got mad. We go and kill one of them, and they kill one of us, and this won't stop.
In the first 6 months of this year, 15 juveniles have been arrested in murder cases here, just one arrest short of the total for all of 1992.
Put your hands on your head. Lock your fingers together.
There are more and more kids getting arrested, more and more of you getting killed, more and more of you killing each other. Where does that stop?
It doesn't stop.
This unfortunately lasted for decades, with the Southsiders and Northerners knocking each other down over territory. The Mission was a neighborhood that you avoided at all costs, but believe it or not, in the mid-2000s it all began to change. As the tech boom exploded in the Bay Area, no neighborhood was hit harder with gentrification than the Mission. Rent and home prices skyrocketed and a whole new class of people moved into the hood.
Oh my god, I love the Mission. It's so cultural and ethnic, I love it.
And because of the hikes on rent, most of the gang members would move to different cities in the Bay. Antioch. So now, instead of the blocks being flooded by hundreds of gang members, the numbers were really small. Like, for every gang member left in the Mission, there were like
50,000 million tech bros.
Somehow though, in the new changed neighborhood, a few gang members were still living like the 90s. Specifically, I'm talking about the 16th and 19th Sureños, who, for whatever reason, were still out for blood. And not to sound disrespectful or anything, but starting around 2009, they were knocking off the Norteño gang members left and right, even to the point where they were making them go extinct in their own neighborhood. Pow pow pow! The Sureños were completely taking over the Mission, even to the point where it caught the attention of the FBI. And on March 14, 2014, all 14 Mission Sureño members were indicted for all kinds of crimes. That story is wild in and of itself, but I ain't got all day. So boom, just like that, the essays were swept away, leaving the Nortes alone in the Mission. Bye bye, buddy. The indictment brought a much needed peace and tranquility to the neighborhood, all because the biggest shit disturbers in the city were completely locked away. Finally, the Nortes could breathe and they could simply focus on getting money. But unfortunately, this period of having no beef would not last long. Oh, hell no. But wait, you know what does last long? Get your head out of the gutter, cause I'm talking about Raycon earbuds. Aren't you tired of those earbuds that keep dropping dead every time you want to use them? And that's why we got Raycon, cause their earbuds can last up to 32 hours. Damn. Now who's actually going to be wearing the headphones for 32 hours? I don't know, but if you did decide to do that, they would be comfortable. And if you're anything like me and you're often walking through precarious situations, these are perfect for you. Cause with the awareness mode, if you're out and about listening to your slaps, you can also listen to anything happening around you. And you can also do it in whatever color you like. Personally, when I'm out profiling, doing my thug thizzle, I'm in the mint Raycon earbuds. They be like, ooh, Swamp, you doing your thing, brother. So if you want to be like me, then click the link in the description or go to buyraycon.com/bigswamp. With this, you can get up to 30% off for their Cyber Monday and Black Friday deals. And if you want to support me for finally dropping a video, go and get you a pair. Ooh wee, click that link in the description. This message is sponsored by Raycon. Appreciate you. Now let's get up to speed. First, Norteños hit the hood, then Sureños hit the hood, they start beefing, Sureños start spanking them, then they get indicted, so now the Norteños have no ops. But then, out of nowhere, a brand new beef kicks off. That takes us down to the very bottom of the Mission, an area known as the Army Street Projects. And for those who aren't familiar, in the 1980s and 90s, this was one of the most dangerous and disgusting places you could possibly live.
To one of the most deadly pieces of real estate in the Bay Area, the Army Street housing projects in San Francisco.
Every night, young men lurk outside these eerie structures. The faces of those who have died here still haunt the hallways.
With constant shootouts and dead bodies being found in the hallways, this place needed to be torn down. So between 1997 and 2001, the city completely tore them down and replaced them with these townhomes. As a result, most of the residents were forced to move to other cities in the Bay, which at the time was very controversial. Like, damn, how are y'all gonna kick out the only black community in the area? Well, either way, the new townhomes were pretty nice, and some residents actually did return. And to be fair, they did return to a pretty peaceful neighborhood. No more shootouts, no more gang activity, just a decent place to raise a family. Thankfully, this gave the young generation a much better chance at life than their parents had. The new generation of youngins had a real opportunity, and none more than Rashawn Williams, also known as Nito. It's May of 2014, and Rashawn Williams is finishing up his 8th grade year at Horace Mann Middle School. And by all accounts, Rashawn is a real local superstar, known as one of the best football players in the Bay. In fact, so good that he's accepted a full-ride scholarship to Sacred Heart Cathedral. D1 football prospect, straight-A student, and very well liked, all coming out of the Army Street Projects. However, despite being liked by many, he's not liked by all. That introduces us to one of his classmates, a youngin' by the name of Luis Quiñones, also known as Cito. You see, Luis happens to be born and raised on 24th and Mission, right in the heart of Norte territory. And despite being just 14 years old, the Nortes are already recruiting him hard. Of course, being young and impressionable, he starts to become affiliated. This leads him to the too hard mentality, like, I'm with the shit, I'm too tough, none of y'all can fuck with me. And sadly, according to classmates, he decides to make Rashawn a target of his aggression. Well, despite being a scholar and an athlete, Rashawn is not scared, so him and Luis, they begin fighting. So for months and months, Rashawn and Luis get into it every single day. They truly become serious rivals, Nito versus Cito. Thankfully, the school stepped in and made them sit down together and hash out their issues, and according to Cito's father, it actually worked. They agreed that they had no reason to beef, they shook hands, and they went on their separate ways. Nito went off to Sacred Heart to play football, and Cito, he went off to Mission High School. As you'd expect, Rashawn was instantly popular at Sacred Heart, being a football player and all. But he was also just a genuinely nice kid. For him, being at this private high school was like a sanctuary from all the nonsense in the neighborhood. But most importantly, it removed him from having classmates that would threaten to kill him. The bottom line is that he finally felt comfortable, and because of this, he had an amazing first 3 weeks of high school. Life is on the up and up for a young Nito. And that takes us to September 2nd, 2014. After another long day at school and football practice, Nito takes the bus home. Well, actually, before he goes home, he heads to his old elementary school to pick up his little brother. From here, he walks him to the corner store across the street from their apartment like any other day. They grab some snacks and a couple drinks and they walk out of the store. Boom! As soon as they exit, right there are two teenagers who are approaching aggressively. They begin banging Norte and talking shit to Nito. Of course, Nito was confused. Like, bruh, I don't even bang, what are y'all on? The two aggressors don't seem to care, so Nito tells them, hey bruh, let me drop off my little brother and then we could handle whatever. But for whatever reason, one of them doesn't respect this at all, and instead, he whips out a blade and attacks Rashawn.
Tuesday night, 14-year-old Rashawn Williams was in Garfield Square Park in San Francisco's Mission District. Shortly before 7, the brothers walked down the street to this corner market for something to drink. When they exited the store, Rashawn was stabbed.
This was an innocent child. He was walking to the store with his two brothers. They had to witness this thing so horrible. This shouldn't have escalated to death.
Rashawn died a short time later at San Francisco General Hospital.
He was a bright kid, great football player, very strong, very smart. He just got a scholarship to go to Sacred Heart.
Family members are still in shock.
He had a bright future. He was going to make it in life. Yes, he was.
It was wrong for whoever did it.
It's sad losing someone that you know. It's hard. It doesn't feel real until it actually hits you.
He was like a precious diamond in the family. I mean, growing up in San Francisco in the Mission, you don't have a lot of opportunities, and he was a straight-A student, 4.0.
She had a smile that brightened up my day every time I seen him. He's a good kid.
The students at Sacred Heart were told of their new classmate's death during their first period. Even those who just met the young man say they can't imagine someone else taking his life.
He was a fun guy to be around. He was usually pretty happy.
This was the ultimate tragedy for anyone who knew him, but none more than for his little brother who had to witness this firsthand. Being so young and watching your superhero big brother get removed just like that, I can't even imagine the trauma. Well, we'll get back to that later. In the meantime, directly after this tragedy, everyone was furious and also confused. Like, who could have done this to Rashawn? He wasn't in the streets and he never hurt anyone. All he ever wanted to do was live out his dreams. Well, thankfully, this is when his former middle school classmates decide to speak up. They informed KTVU and SFPD that Rashawn had a rival in middle school, a teenager named Luis Quiñones, who according to them, constantly threatened his life in 8th grade. While the students admit that they have no clue who did this, they do say that Luis was the only person they knew who hated Rashawn. So from here, police look into Luis, and just days later, he's arrested for the murder of Rashawn. Wow, mixed feelings for sure. Relief that his killer is being held accountable, but at the same time disappointed. Specifically, Rashawn's mother is furious at SFPD as she claims that she had reported Luis multiple times. I tell you over and over that somebody is threatening my son's life and you do absolutely nothing about it. I guess I'm happy that his killer's going to jail, but this definitely could have been prevented. Just all around frustrations, and believe it or not, from here it only gets worse. Weeks later, the district attorney makes a shocking decision. Out of nowhere, he decides to drop all of the charges. And let's just say that the family of Rashawn and the Army Street community are pissed. How could you let him go for such a heinous act? Well, on the surface it seems irresponsible and negligent, but when you get the real story, it actually makes sense. After video of the incident was released, it clearly showed that Cito was not the one who did it. He just so happened to be with the person who actually did it. So this cleared Luis on the murder charges, but it also cleared him on the accessory charges as well, because if you don't have a murder suspect, how do you have an accessory? Long story short, he refused to testify on his homie and the case would go unsolved. So Rashawn's real killer was out on the loose. And according to this book written about the situation, the real killer is allegedly a man by the name of Miguel Alvarez, also known as Lil Ponch from 24th. Because the system failed to prosecute Rashawn's killers, the Army Street projects felt no choice but to handle it in the streets. At this point, Army Street hadn't been active in a long time, but for Rashawn, they were now willing to spark up a beef. We gotta suit up and slide for our boy. At this point, we ain't got no other choice. If you bang 24th Street Nortes, you're better off staying inside. From here, things get ugly, and that takes us to December 9th, 2015. It's 3 a.m. in the quiet Bernal Heights neighborhood, and Lil Ponch is chilling at a friend's house. At 3:20, he decides that he's gonna leave his homie's house and walk home. But little does he know, a rival somehow knows exactly where he is, and he's been waiting outside all night. So as soon as he opens the door and walks downstairs, a man hops out of his car. The man quietly tiptoes, gets right behind him, and sadly, he makes a tragic decision. This was another massive deal in the Mission community. Ponch was very popular in the neighborhood, of course for the wrong reasons, but either way, a lot of people knew him. But it was also a big deal because everyone saw this as get back for Nito. It was commonly believed that Ponch had killed Nito, and now that Ponch was dead, the score is even. But let's just say that even after doing this, Army Street is still not satisfied. And that fast forwards us just 17 hours after the passing of Ponch. It's 9 p.m. in the Mission, and Ponch's friends and family are gathered around to grieve his loss. In particular, they light candles on his childhood block of 24th and Cap. Well, as the night goes on and most of the family and friends head home, it's only the 24th Street members outside. Active members like G-Boy and Cuddy, but most importantly, his best friend in the world. This would be a young man by the name of Fernando Madrigal, also known as Nando. Nando and Ponch were best friends from day one, so this loss truly devastated Nando. So on this late night, it's just him and his homies out there grieving and reminiscing about their friend. Well, little do they know, the rivals are still not satisfied with their revenge, and they're outside looking to score again. 10:45 p.m. As the three amigos are outside posted up on the corner, a van is turning around the block. As they turn onto 24th, they notice them on the corner, and without even stopping the car, they roll down the windows and begin unleashing. Over 50 rounds out of the window. Despite making efforts to run away, all three members are hit. But thankfully, because there's a hospital just 4 blocks away, all of their lives are spared. Either way, this was a declaration of war. You already got even, and now you're targeting the dudes who had nothing to do with the passing of Nito. Obviously, the 24th Street members took it as such, and they got ready to go to battle. Now, G-Boy and Cuddy were already active, but Fernando, this really woke him up. Like, damn, y'all killed my best friend in the world, and then tried to kill me? Oh yeah, it's on. You see, Nando was just a regular kid born and raised on 24th. He wasn't overly aggressive, he wasn't trying to kill nobody, but this incident, it woke up a beast. He said, "Fuck everything I got going on, I'm dedicating the rest of my life to destroying Army Street." Directly after the loss of Ponch, Nando would jump off the porch for the first time. Trying to score on Army Street every single night. Thankfully though, he was unable to hit any of his targets, and because he did it without a mask, he was instantly caught. Now usually when an 18-year-old goes to jail for the first time, they're thinking, damn, I need to get my life together. But for Nando, this wasn't the case at all. In fact, all he was thinking is that as soon as I get out, I'm going right back and attacking Army Street. The loss of his best friend and then being shot himself really messed him up, and during his jail stay, it would only get worse. This is because on September 24th, 2016, a close friend and fellow Mission Norte would lose his life. This would be a 19-year-old named Alejandro Valle, also known as Dirk, and he was targeted while leaving his friend's house in the Bayview. This was another devastating loss for the Mission Norte, and it only made Nando even angrier. Like, damn bruh, y'all shot me and killed both of my childhood best friends? Oh, I can't wait till I get home. The day finally comes as Nando is released on January 12th, 2017. Ooh-wee, the beast is finally home, and as soon as he touches down, all he can think about is revenge. And that fast forwards us a week, January 20th, 2017. It's a Friday afternoon in the Mission, and Nando is back outside posted up. Outside on the block with a baseball bat, just hoping to run into somebody from Army Street. Well, after a couple of hours of being posted up, he doesn't see anyone who fits the description. So instead, he walks over to McDonald's to get some food. When he goes inside, he notices a black man leaning on his bike while waiting in line. So instantly he walks up to the man and he's like, yo, you from Army Street? What the fuck you doing in my hood? The man has no idea what he's talking about, so he responds, look bruh, I don't know what you want, but I'm just trying to get some food. Well, sadly, Nando doesn't believe him and his anger is building. So out of nowhere, he allegedly pulls a baseball bat out of his jacket and begins whacking the man across the face. Tragically, he breaks the man's jaw and neck and then takes his bike and rides it away. Damn. Thankfully, bystanders flag down SFPD who chase him down 24th. And just like that, Nando was arrested just a week after being released from jail. A felony robbery and a felony assault with a dangerous weapon. Now in most places, these are serious charges, especially doing it right after getting out of jail. But in San Francisco, hell no. Because after sitting in jail for just 3 weeks, Nando was released on an ankle monitor. Now after attacking an innocent guy who ended up having nothing to do with Army Street, you'd think that Nando would be like, damn, next time I gotta make sure whoever I'm attacking is actually an op. But nah, Nando simply does not care, and releasing him from jail was a horrible mistake. Unfortunately, an ankle monitor ain't stopping nothing, and that takes us to April 10th, 2017. It's a Monday afternoon on 24th, and Nando is posted up like any other day. Well, as he's patrolling the block, he notices a man sitting in his car on 24th and Cap. And because of the man's physical appearance, he automatically assumes he must be from Army Street. So instantly he sprints towards the car and walks up to the man's window. He knocks, so the man rolls down his window and he's like, yo, what's up? This is when Nando yells back,
yo, you from Army, huh? What the fuck you doing on 24th?
The dude in the car, who's not even from San Francisco, is utterly confused. Like, bro, what are you even talking about? Well, unfortunately, before the man can even respond or roll up his window, Nando straight socks him in the face. He then jumps on top of the car and begins stomping out the windshield. At this point, the man hops out and he tries to pull him off of his car. However, this is when Nando reaches for his waistband and the man sprints away. Running away quickly most definitely saved the man's life. But either way, Nando steals his car and drives off to Daly City. This is where he's arrested hours later and charged with carjacking and assault. Well, you'd think that after being arrested for 2 serious felonies while being out for 2 other serious felonies that they'd actually send him to jail this time. But no, after just 2 months in San Francisco County Jail, Nando was released once again. Welcome to the clown show called San Francisco, a place where you can nearly kill someone with a baseball bat, then get out, then go carjack somebody and punch them in the face, and then get out again. It's kind of like the overly nice parent who just can't discipline their kid. Like, sweetie, it's okay, just don't do it again. And then the kid progressively gets worse and worse and worse as they keep pushing boundaries. Like, damn, I can do anything in this household. And that perfectly personifies Nando's situation, as of course, he never learns his lesson. In fact, he only gets worse as his ambitions to harm Army Street grow larger. The system clearly can't stop him. the only people who can might be the rivals. And that takes us to July 27th, 2017. It's a day after Nando was released from jail, and he's right back outside posted up. Well, little does he know, while he was locked up, his name was ringing bells through the streets.
That fool Nando from 24th been on a sick one, trying to catch anybody from Army.
Of course, the Army members hear about this and they decide to take things into their own hands. So while Nando is outside posted up on 24th like any other day, a crew of rivals are making their way to the block. 4:30 p.m. Nando was happy to be out of jail, so he's just chilling on the block, not paying attention. And while he's distracted on his phone, a crew of 3 Army Street rivals are walking his way. And without saying a word, they quietly approach him and whip out blades. The rivals poke him up good and leave him laying on the concrete.
That motherfucker surely out of here, bruh. We just scored, brother, on everything I love, bruh. We just did that, you feel me?
We poked bro up hella times, bro. G.O.D.
Bro was trying to hurt anybody from Army, bro. We had to do it.
But while the whole Army Street is celebrating, thinking they scored, little do they know, a friend of Nando who witnessed it instantly carried him and ran him to the hospital. And after a 5-hour surgery, they were able to patch up all of his 11 stab wounds. And really, all the damage she was left with was shattered ligaments in his legs and a serious limp. For Army Street, this is really bad news. He already hates you and is crazy as it is. Now you try to take his life and he survives? While recovering in the hospital, all he can think about is revenge. And unfortunately, this dude is so evil that he picks the worst day to do it. September 2nd, 2017. It's the 3-year anniversary of the tragic loss of Rashawn Williams, and Army Street is outside celebrating his life. A barbecue and a candlelight, all in the memory of the fallen star. No politics, no beef, no gangbanging, just good vibes and good memories. And because there hasn't been violence in a while, they're pretty much all comfortable and happy outside. But little do they know, the evil man from the other side wants to spoil Rashawn's memorial. It's now nighttime, so many of the kids and families have already gone home, leaving only the members outside posted up having fun. At 10:30 p.m., Nando leaves his apartment on 24th and begins hobbling down towards Army Street. Just him by himself with a 30 stick with nothing but anger on his mind. 10:40 p.m. As he makes his way down Treat Avenue, there he spots all the members in the alley. Ooh-wee, so from across the street, he whips out and starts blowing up the block. The members have no idea where the shots are coming from, so they scatter in all directions. One person from Army Street is hit, but thankfully he survives after surgery. And for Nando, somehow he hobbles his way back to 24th without police noticing. Well, even though nobody died, this was still a big deal in the mission, because you shot up the memorial of a 14-year-old who wasn't in the streets. And because of this heartless act, SFPD would have a lot of pressure to figure it out. And here's how that would go. After reviewing the security footage, police noticed that the man had a limp. So this is when they call up the gang unit and are like, hey, do y'all know anyone who walks with a limp? So then the gang unit's like, hey, this is San Francisco.
Hey, that's gotta be Nando. You know, the one from 24th who got stabbed a few months ago?
And just like that, 2 days later, Nando's apartment would be raided and he'd be arrested for attempted murder. Okay, so now you're probably thinking, this time he has to go to prison. I mean, after an assault with a deadly weapon, and then another assault with a deadly weapon and a carjacking, and then getting out and shooting up a memorial. You gotta go to prison now, right? Well, not so fast. Because police couldn't find the weapon that was used, a judge decided to completely drop the case. Wow, and just like that, the dangerous Nando returns right back to the streets. Wait, everyone, before you get mad, please understand that this time it is different. Hold on, calm down, just listen to what I have to say. Directly after allegedly sliding on Army Street, Nando decides that he wants to change his life around. No more gangbanging and certainly no more violence. Instead of the dangerous street life, Nando becomes, and I kid you not, a community activist. In fact, he begins working with the city on violence reduction and all kinds of social issues. He even begins working with the vulnerable youth, giving them a better path and steering them away from the streets. He quickly becomes the face of peace in the mission, even sitting down with various local politicians. Truly a remarkable turnaround, I must give him credit. Like, yes, I know I shot up a memorial last month, but now I want to change my life around and I want peace in the community. However, while Nando was out there preaching peace, his Norte homies are doing the exact opposite.
Even without Nando, the 24th Nortes are still active, fool.
It's now 2018, 4 years after the massive Sureño indictment that swept up the gang out of the mission. But now 4 years later, 16th and 19th Street members are slowly popping back up. Word starts to get around, and let's just say that the 24th Street Nortes are not happy. Specifically, Nando's close friends Oscar Diaz, also known as Cuddy, and Alvaro Cordero, also known as G-Boy. And in case you're wondering, G-Boy and Cuddy are just like Nando, or the old Nando, just wild-ass norteños that are willing to do anything for the gang. Except while Nando mostly hates Army Street for smoking 2 of his homies, G-Boy and Cuddy hate the Sureños for smoking a couple of theirs. To be frank, G-Boy and Cuddy hate the Sureños, and they want to kill them off before they take over the mission. January 23rd, 2018. It's a foggy afternoon in the city, and a random couple is walking from St. Mary's Park to the nearest bus stop. Well, at this exact time, Cuddy's pulling off from his mom's apartment with G-Boy in the passenger seat. This would be the Alemany Projects, just a couple blocks away from where this couple is waiting at the bus stop. Well, on this day, the 2 members are strapped up and headed to the mission looking to score on a Sureño. So as they're headed from Alemany to Mission Street, G-Boy notices the couple at the bus stop. The man is wearing a blue hoodie and 501 Levi's, so instantly he thinks he's a Southsider. G-Boy immediately tells Cuddy to stop the car as he opens up his door and sprints towards the bus stop. Tragically, without asking any questions, he begins blowing at the couple. Officers hear the shots from a couple blocks away, but sadly when they arrive to the scene, the man is deceased. As it turns out, according to SFPD, Doobie Ortiz did not have any gang affiliations. In fact, they later find out that he had gone to school with the driver Cuddy his entire life. Just another despicable targeting of a civilian at the hands of a 24th Street member. You want to hear the craziest part? The duo didn't even try to escape. Instead, they just went right back to his mom's house in the Alemany Projects. Yet somehow, SFPD would still not figure this out. At least not anytime soon. And at this point in the video, you're probably thinking SFPD is a joke. And if you think that now, just wait for this. We fast forward just 2 days later, January 25th, 2018. It's a late afternoon and Cuddy is cutting up San Jose Avenue, maneuvering like a maniac. This is when a parked police officer notices and begins pursuing him. When Cuddy notices, he smashes on the gas and tosses a 30-round handgun out of the window. Little does he know the officer pursuing him saw this and calls in another officer to go pick it up. He stays right on Cuddy's tail until he smacks into a pole. Long story short, he crashes, police arrest him, and they find the weapon. And when they bring the weapon into the police station, they notice that it has a scratched off serial number, which, if you don't know, is a serious federal crime. Like, even in the state of California, this can hold 10 years in prison alone. Damn. Not to mention having the illegal 30-round magazine and running from police. For all this together, in most states, you're looking at least 5 years in prison. But wait, that's not even everything. After raiding his mom's apartment, they were able to find 100-round drums, switches, yes, switches in 2018, and 2 more illegal assault weapons. But on top of this, little do they know, one of these weapons was used in the murder just 2 days prior. Somehow though, they don't make the connection, even after discovering the mask that G-Boy used when he jumped out of the car. SFPD, what are you doing? But either way, after being caught with all these illegal weapons, you'd think that Cuddy would be gone for a long time. But nope, a judge decides to release him on bail and even gives him time served after being convicted. What the hell? As you'll see, this would be a costly decision for the city. Being let off for crimes over and over left the 24th Street members to feel untouchable, like we can just do anything we want in the city. They don't fear the legal system at all, and the only thing that they're ever worried about is getting caught by the rivals. And because of this, their #1 target, Nando, makes the smart decision to get out of town and to duck low. And when you're a part of a large organization like the Norteños, you have connections all around the country, meaning that at any given moment, you can phone up a fellow member in a different state and they can host you and let you duck low in their hood. So for Nando, whenever things get hot or dangerous in the mission, he calls up a hood way across the country, specifically in the small remote city of Burlington, Iowa. Yes, Iowa. Good old peaceful and country living. A place so quiet that the biggest crime is, well...
We had multiple calls of a cow on front lawns in people's yards and everything like that. It was crazy.
With 12 officers on count duty, including patrolman Robert Clementi, who had a rope.
Yeah, I had a little lasso. I was trying to bring out my inner cowboy, so...
They were staking out the neighborhood as well as Columbus Park.
And then we had her pinned in a couple of the yards here. We actually had her right in this front yard here, which she jumped over the fence, so.
Kind of wild?
Kind of wild.
Byron Orr was utterly shocked when we told him it wound up in his yard. He confirmed seeing the police commotion on his home security footage.
Now, in a place like this, you're probably wondering, why and how do the Norteños have a set there? Anywhere where there's a drug problem and there's a demand for drugs, people are going to go there to sell it. In this case, in the late 1990s, Mission District Norteños actually moved to Iowa to control the drug market. So according to the feds, not only did Nando go out there to lay low, but he was also going back and forth trafficking you know what. I mean, picturing a guy like Nando in the middle of Iowa is crazy to me. That's like, what's the comparison? I don't know, but while he's supposed to be a reformed community activist, he's really in another state trapping his butt off. I ain't gonna lie, in the Bay Area, that's normal as hell. But either way, when you're in these random states, you have to move smart. You can't move like you're in SF or Oakland. And for Nando, he unfortunately learns the hard way. June 5th, 2018. It's 2 a.m. in the small town of Olds, Iowa, and Nando is posted up outside of his whip slapping music.
I'm from the Mo, I throw up 2 foes, but you could catch me in that down low. I'm in them jets. Oh shit, bitch, I'm Mr. Book Strips. I'm that thug and never do shit. See me in person on some cool shit.
Posted up slapping music with an Iowa Norteño named Enrique Garza. Of course, the neighbors hear this, they look out their window, and they instantly call 911.
Hey, what is he doing here? 911 now!
Within minutes, the sheriffs show up, surround his car, and they find peas in the trunk. Just like that, they're both arrested, and while Nando is sitting in jail, things get active in the mission. Just 2 days later, on June 7th, a massive shootout would go down on Army Street.
For hours, SFPD flooded the area of Treat and Camille, trying to gather evidence as well as figure out a motive and track down a shooter. 3 people were hit by gunfire.
3 people shot, and a young man named Jamie Poole would sadly lose his life. The next day, 2 people would be arrested, but for whatever reason, charges were dropped and I can't find any information on the case. Truthfully, I have no idea whether Jamie was a part of Army Street or 24th or had nothing to do with the streets. And I know you guys like to call me the police, but I don't know everything. But what I do know is that Nando would be released from Iowa jail and he'd return to the streets of San Francisco. At this point, to outsiders, he's just a reformed dude who used to be a gangbanger and now he's just a community activist. But this one is crazy. July 12th, 2018. It's another afternoon in the city and Nando hits up his sister's husband, a man by the name of Luis Garcia. He allegedly texts him and asks, "Hey fool, you wanna buy some green stuff?" Luis is like, "Sure, okay," and then Nando tells him to meet him at Candlestick Park. Now, if you're unfamiliar, this is an abandoned area way tucked off in the corner, which is kinda suspicious. Like, why do you want to meet up over there? But Luis figures that this is my wife's brother. I guess I have nothing to worry about. So Luis heads over there and at 7 p.m. he arrives to the empty parking lot. 5 minutes later, Nando pulls up next to him and hops in his back seat. At this point, Luis has to be confused. Like, bro, we're a family. Why the fuck are you hopping in my back seat? And why the fuck are we at Candlestick Park? The vibes are definitely off, and this is when Nando tells him to empty his pockets.
Bruh, give me everything you got.
So Luis obviously responds, huh? Bro, what the fuck are you talking about? For whatever reason, this infuriates Nando and he whips out his Blake. Sadly, he lets off on him right through the headrest. After committing this heinous act, Nando somehow remains calm. First, he looks around and checks that there's no bystanders or witnesses. And once he sees that it's clear, he puts Luis in the trunk of his own car and takes off towards the San Mateo Bridge. As he's heading down 101, he realizes that he forgot to toss Luis's phone. So this is when he pulls over in Foster City, opens the trunk, takes Luis's phone, and gets back in the car. He speeds across the San Mateo Bridge and tosses the phone out of the window. The crazy part is that somehow he misses the water and the phone lands directly on a concrete barrier. But of course, Luis doesn't know that and he keeps going. Finally, he arrives to his intended destination, the Oakland Hills, specifically right above the Caldecott Tunnel. This is where he unfortunately takes his brother-in-law's body and dumps it in the bushes. How evil can you be? Right after doing this, he moves quickly. He hops back in Luis's car and drives it off to East Oakland. This is where he finds a tucked off alleyway and he lights the car on fire. After all this, he calls an Uber and heads back to Candlestick Park. And somehow he goes about his life like nothing happened. Hours go by and Nando's sister begins to worry about her husband. Why isn't he home yet? He's not picking up any calls and he's not texting back. What's going on? It's now after midnight and she knows that something is up, so this is when she uses his Find My iPhone. His location shows up right next to the San Mateo Bridge, so instantly her and her friends head off there. However, when they get there, because it's dark, they don't see any clues of his phone. So as a last resort, she calls 911, who of course offers zero help. They allegedly tell her to give it some more time, and if he's still missing in the morning, call us again. So she reluctantly goes home, and she decides to return the very next morning. This time when she looks over the bridge, she literally sees the phone on the barrier. So she calls a family member, they pull up, they climb, they grab the phone, and boom. Right there they see blood smeared all over it and a fingerprint right in the middle. She instantly calls the police and also lets all of her family know of what she discovered. So of course, police named Luis Garcia as a missing man and they begin an investigation. Now who do you think steps up and volunteers to help out? Of course, this would be the great community activist Fernando Madrigal, who's absolutely distraught over his missing brother-in-law. This is cold-blooded, and honestly, I don't think I've seen anything like this before. And after doing this heinous act to his family member, he goes right back to his social justice. Shortly after this, he even organizes anti-violence protests, works with the youth, and makes it seem like he's helping the community. All while his family are grieving the probable loss of Luis Garcia, not knowing that he actually did it. Somehow, Nando maintains this facade lifestyle with nobody looking into him right into the next year. But then comes February 18th, 2019. If you can remember, Nando was on probation for all kinds of felonies, and on this particular day, SFPD decided to pull up to his apartment to do a routine probation check. And of course, as you'd imagine, they find everything under the sun: guns, ammunition, substances, robbery tools. You get the point. He's clearly violating his terms, which, by the law, should 100% send him to prison. But nope, this is San Francisco, so instead of locking him up, they simply extend his probation by 2 more years. Of course, this will end up being costly, but if you can remember, Nando is not the only one who's supposed to be in prison, as his friend Cuddy, he's supposed to be locked up too, as they keep letting him out on probation over and over. A dude like Cuddy on the loose is not a good idea, and that takes us to April 9th, 2019. It's a Tuesday night in the Alamany Projects as Cuddy is leaving his mom's apartment in a stolen Mitsubishi. For whatever reason, he's feeling especially dangerous and angry, and he wants to go out and do some damage. So he heads out on his own and drives towards the Army Street Projects. He arrives at 10:15 and he spins the block multiple times, but nobody is outside. So instead, he decides to park his car across the street and patiently wait for any resident to come out. At 10:30 p.m., an Army Street resident walks out of his apartment and heads to the corner store right across the street. Boom, right away Cuddy notices, he turns his car on and he pulls right in front of the man. After cutting him off in the stopwalk, he rolls down his window and starts throwing up 4s. The man is confused and he's looking at him crazy, like, bro, what are you doing? This is when Cuddy starts dissing Army Street, and this time the man gets the message. He turns around to sprint home, and sadly, Cuddy whips out. Thankfully, Cuddy pulls a Ben Simmons and the man is completely untouched. However, a random man sitting on his couch would sadly take a stray bullet to his head. The civilian's life would be saved at the hospital, but brain damage is permanent. Well, after doing this nonsense, Cuddy heads off and he gets away with it, at least for the meantime. This is yet another example of the destruction that 24th was causing to the Army Street community for no reason at all, like literally targeting anyone in the way. These dudes were a real threat to the public safety of San Francisco, and the police nor judges seem to care at all. This all emboldens their behavior and even makes it worse, and that takes us to June 7th, 2019. Nando begins the day with an absolute tirade on social media. He posts selfie videos with guns, videos of him loading up weapons, and constantly threatening Army Street. He then posts a picture of himself standing on 24th and Mission, and he dares the Army Street members to come through and slide.
I'm outside, bruh, come kill me.
Then after hours of nobody sliding on him, he gets frustrated and he begins tagging the Army Street members on his story.
Y'all not active, bruh. Told y'all to come slide on me, and y'all didn't slide.
Kid you not, Nando does this every single day from June 7th to July 6th, and still, nobody slides on him. At this point, he's extremely frustrated, like bruh, I just want to have a shootout. So in order to remedy this, he decides to take matters into his own hands. July 7th, 2019. It's a great day for community activist Mr. Fernando Madrigal, as today he leases a brand new Honda from Victory Toyota of San Bruno.
Yay!
Now everyone, after getting a brand new car, what do guys usually do? Pull up on the homies, you pull up on a breezy. Nah, that was corny. But for most people, it's actually an exciting day. But not for Nando, of course, as he has some other plans for this vehicle. Now we fast forward till midnight, 12:10 a.m. Nando was sliding around the Mission in his brand new car with an AK-47 in his lap. He circles around the Army Street projects, just itching for somebody to walk outside. Boom, at 12:15 he spots a random man walking towards the projects. Because of his appearance, Nando instantly assumes that he's an Army Street member, so right away he rolls down his window and bam! He absolutely lights up the block like a Christmas tree, letting off over 30 rounds. But thankfully he doesn't connect on any shots, and all he does is damage the plywood. Either way, officers sitting just 2 blocks away, they hear the shots and they instantly head to the scene. And as they're approaching the projects, Nando speeds right by them in his new Honda. The officers notice and they dispatch units to follow the Honda. Nando flies through the city as he heads down 280 towards Daly City, going over 130 miles an hour. Of course, the officers lose track of him and he pulls into a movie theater parking lot in Daly City. And this is where he hangs out all night until the smoke clears. He anxiously waits in the car hour after hour, waiting for the smoke to clear. In his mind, he figures that once the sun goes up, they'll stop looking for him, and then he can drive home in the car he just did a shooting in. But little does he know, he left the dealer plate on the car, which is a big mistake. Cause directly after reviewing security footage, SFPD go down to the dealership and they ask them who bought this car. Of course, they tell them that it was leased by Fernando Madrigal. At this very moment, in any functioning society, police should raid every known place that Fernando could be. But of course, police do nothing and Nando's street life continues. So after waiting all night in the parking lot, he pulls off in the morning and goes and hides the car. He then heads home to take a little nap, and at 3 p.m. he wakes up and wants to go get a burrito. It's now 3:30 p.m. and a group of teenagers are getting a burrito at El Taco Loco. As they're waiting in line, Nando happens to walk in the restaurant. He then looks up and spots them in front of him, and because one of them is black, he begins to get suspicious. So he taps him on the shoulder and he says, "Hey, you from Army Street?" The teen then responds, "Look bruh, I play football, I go to school, I don't bang." Nando doesn't really care and he says, "Bruh, I think I've seen you out there before." The teenager then pleads, "Look bruh, I told you I don't bang, I'm not into none of that." Instantly, Nando loses his appetite and he walks out of the restaurant. The teenager's thinking, bruh, he was tripping. I'm happy we got out of that one. But little does he know, Nando runs over to his homies on the block and tells them that he needs a chopper. So instantly one of his homies tells him to follow him and they walk over to his van. He then hands him a chopper and he tells him that once you do it, I'll pick you up right after. So now with a chopper under his hoodie, Nando walks back to El Taco Loco. As soon as he gets there, the teenagers happen to be leaving the restaurant. Sadly, Nando targets the one who he believes is from Army Street. Another innocent tragedy for the Army Street community. Davon was just a 15-year-old high school student waiting for his sophomore year. He wasn't in the streets, he wasn't a criminal, and according to everyone who knew him, he was a genuinely good dude. His precious life was taken away so young simply because of his appearance. So kind of like what happened to Rashawn, this not only pissed off the Army Street community, but it infuriated the entire city. Y'all killed an innocent in 2014, and then you do it again 5 years later, just stealing the lives of innocent kids for no reason. So while the Mission Nortes were already hated before, this just put the icing on the cake. In fact, just a day later, a fellow 24th member would text Nando and say, "Hey, be safe, everyone is 24K now." He tells him that Harbor Road, Army Street, Double Rock, Sunnydale, and the Zone, they all want to smoke us now. All these projects in the city were so upset about what happened to Day Day that they were willing to spark a beef with 24th. In the meantime, Nando seemingly gets away with this and goes right back to his regular life. No arrests, no warrants, just right back to his regular life. And that fast forwards us 11 days, July 19th, 2019. Nando is riding through the sunset in his leased Honda Accord when he blows a red light and a police officer notices. Surprisingly, Nando stops and pulls over. He rolls down his window, he shows ID, and does it all end here? I mean, the car he's in is wanted for a shooting that happened 2 weeks ago. So he should be arrested, right? Nope, the officer doesn't run his name and he simply tells him, stop at red lights. So again, Nando goes about his life in San Francisco. And that fast forwards us yet another 11 days. And here is where the story gets crazy. After the tragic murder of Devon and numerous other shootings, the Mission District is just tired of the violence. So in order to bring the community together to grieve and to stop the violence, Nando decides to host a rally. Specifically a Stop the Violence rally, in order to, well, stop the violence. Specifically, he even invites Day Day's mom to come speak at the rally. And after she gives her emotional speech grieving her son, he even consoles her on stage. He tells her that he's been stabbed and shot before and that he's also lost a lot of friends, so his sympathy lies with her soul. And after this, he goes up on stage and gives an inspiring speech, telling the youth to please stay out of the streets. Wait, you guys are hearing this correctly, right? After killing her son, he consoles her and asks her to speak at his rally. When I tell you pure evil, this dude Nando is pure, disgusting evil. Despite his constant sloppiness, somehow it's all working out for him. Everyone believes that he's just a reformed community activist. Even the mother of somebody that he killed, and his own family, whose brother-in-law he killed as well. Somehow, no one has a clue that Nando was the one behind all the madness in the mission. And listen to this. Just a couple weeks later at his court date, a San Francisco district supervisor would write a letter to the judge telling them to let him off free. So of course the judge, who I think this case was about a gun charge and a robbery, would let him off free. So months and months go by and Nando stays out of trouble and he keeps doing his community service stuff. And he figures that he's all in the clear. And for the meantime, he really is, because police aren't even looking at him. But then out of nowhere, Nando makes a tragic mistake. So here's what he does. It's now September of 2019, and on this random morning, Nando wakes up paranoid. After a night of nightmares about being caught for everything he's done, he begins to worry. Did I cover all of my tracks? Boom, this is when he remembers that the car he slid in is registered to him and that he never took off the license plates. Oh my god, I fucked up. I need to find a way to fix this. So this is when he comes up with the genius idea to call the police. He reports his Honda Accord as stolen, and he says that it was stolen as soon as he bought it. Now mind you, Nando has the car parked outside in the Mission, so police go out looking for it and they find it parked outside. And when they investigate the stolen car, they see who it's registered to and they're like, Fernando, that's the same dude from all the shit in the past? And this is when they begin truly investigating everything about Fernando Madrigal. They're instantly able to tie him to multiple shootings, and it gets so crazy that they even send the case over to the FBI. And from here, the FBI get warrants to tap his phone, and you'll see in a minute. So while Nando thinks he made the genius decision to report the car stolen and that now he'll never get caught for everything he's done, is when he's actually being investigated. The investigation continues for months. And in the meantime, that takes us back to the very beginning of the story. If you can recall, everything began with Cito and Nito getting into it in middle school. And when Nito was killed, Cito was with the person who allegedly did it. Now of course this was Lil Ponch, who was killed just days later. Obviously this is what led into the major beef between 24th and Army, but for Cito himself, he kind of fell back from the entire situation. While Nando, Cuddy, and G-Boy were out there sliding and catching hats, Cito kind of fell back and was like, bro, I don't want to do none of this gang shit. So as far as we know, Cito turned his life around, graduated high school, and was now planning to do something else with his life. However, despite all this, there was still one person who wanted to harm him. And that takes us to September 8th, 2019. It's a Sunday afternoon in the city, and Cito was helping out his girlfriend's mom move furniture into a moving truck. Just outside, moving furniture, being a good son-in-law. Well, little does he know, there's a man down the street watching him, just waiting for an opportunity to strike. Well, after a hard day's work of moving all the furniture, his girlfriend's mom tells them to meet him at a restaurant.
Thank you so much for helping out. We'll treat you to a nice dinner.
So the family heads off to a Vietnamese restaurant in Daly City and tells Cito to meet them there. So Cito heads off with his girlfriend in the passenger seat. Then as he's making his way down to Daly City, he feels a wobble in his car. So he pulls over in Crocker Amazon to make sure that nothing's wrong with his car. But little does he know, a man in a dirt bike has been following him at a distance. And as soon as he pulls over, the dirt bike speeds up and gets right by his side. He empties his clip into the car.
Police investigating a deadly shooting along the 300 block of Rolfe Street in Geneva Avenue. It's near the Crocker Amazon Park. Police say 2 adults were shot. A male victim died on scene.
Yet another tragedy for the Mission community. Luis Cito Quiñones had truly changed his life around, all for his past to come back to bite him years down the line. Now you may be wondering, after all these years and him changing his life around, who could have possibly wanted him dead? Well, for SFPD, they immediately knew who to look for. And just like that, the very next day, Rashawn's little brother was arrested. For all these years, he held in the pain and trauma of watching his big brother get killed right in front of him. And eventually, when he turned 17, he decided that enough was enough. I need to get revenge for my brother. See, in my opinion, this is why mental health services need to be available. Because there's absolutely no way where an 11-year-old should have to hold all this pain, and then when he's 16, 17, he goes and he does this. And to be honest, this just didn't need to happen. Cito had changed his life around. He wasn't the one who killed Rashawn. Why did he deserve this? Just more and more unnecessary trauma, like gas being thrown onto the flame. But actually, on a positive note, this would mark the end of the beef. But not because they squashed anything, but because the feds did a sweep. They ain't gonna make a lie. They ain't gonna make a lie. Feds did a sweep. First, G-Boy and Cuddy would be investigated and arrested for the murder of Doobie Ortiz and the attempted murder of his girlfriend. If you don't recall, this is when they left the Alamany projects and were on their way to the mission and saw a dude in blue and they thought he was a Sureño, so they popped him and his girlfriend. And on top of this, Cuddy would also be charged with shooting up Army Street, which is another attempted murder. As a result, Cuddy would receive 26 years and G-Boy would receive 21. Bye-bye, motherfucker. Shit, I know this is a lot of time, but the fact that these dudes are gonna be home before 50 years old, I don't know, man. But thankfully, they get locked up, and that leaves us with one wild active member left on the streets. Nando! Finally, on August 20th, 2020, Nando would be arrested for the murder of Davon Hand.
This morning, the FBI and the San Francisco Police Department arrested Fernando Madrigal, also known as Nando, for the murder of a 15-year-old victim in the furtherance of gang activity.
Truly one of the most shocking arrests in San Francisco history. Like, what do you mean the community activist that everyone liked killed a 15-year-old and then hugged his mom at the rally? That in of itself is crazy enough. But then, they don't even know about the rest yet. Cause months later while he's sitting in jail, police discover everything else he's done. All the numerous shootings and attempted murders, and most importantly, the murder of his brother-in-law, Luis Garcia. While Nando was sitting in jail, landscapers who were cutting the bushes above the Caldecott tunnel would discover the body of Luis Garcia. As you can imagine, the whole family was shocked, disgusted, and obviously betrayed. Like, damn bro, what the hell you do that for? You put your family through all that? Your brother-in-law who has a newborn on the way? Honestly, the only way to explain this is that Nando was just sick in the head. All the attacks on random black people because he thought they were from Army Street, then actually claiming the life of a 15-year-old who wasn't affiliated with the streets, then hugging the victim's mom and pretending that you have sympathy for her, and of course smoking your own family member for no reason at all, and then fake helping them try to find him. Well, ultimately, Nando would plead guilty to all charges and take 33 years in prison. Man, just 3 dudes, Cuddy, Nando, and G-Boy, causing a whole lot of destruction in San Francisco. But either way, on a positive note, this would finally end the beef. From what I know, 24th versus Army Street has completely calmed down. In conclusion, this was 2 very tiny hoods that pretty much killed each other off. And those who did survive are basically all in prison. All of this that started over a silly middle school argument. And let's not forget, SFPD and the district attorney are also to blame. They could have stopped like 95% of this. But either way, I hope you enjoyed the video. I don't feel like it was one of my best videos. And it took me forever to put it together, but thank you for watching. And if you enjoyed it, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Peace.